The Commodores, formed in 1968 at Tuskegee University in Alabama, rose to fame during the 1970s with their electrifying blend of funk, soulful harmonies, and unforgettable performances. Hits like Brick House, Easy, and Three Times a Lady turned them into legends of the Motown era. But what happened after the spotlight faded? Why did Lionel Richie leave the group at the peak of their success? And did you know that some of the most talented members of the band would later face tragic and heartbreaking ends? In this video, we're uncovering the untold truths behind the music, the triumphs, the tragedies, and the lingering mysteries. Which members are still with us in 2025, and what are they doing today? The name Commodores came about by sheer chance, a lucky accident that would go on to symbolize one of the greatest soul bands of the late 70s and early 80s. Long before chart-topping fame, they were just a group of college friends with shared dream. Their roots trace back to two smaller student groups at Tuskegee, the Mystics and the Jays. When these groups merged, they laid the foundation for what would become the Commodores. Among the members of the Mystics were Lionel Richie, Thomas McClary, and William King. And the beginning of their story is almost cinematic. While standing in line at college registration, Thomas McClary heard someone behind him whistling a jazz tune by Eddie Harris. Curious, he turned and asked the young man, "Are you a musician?" The student, who turned out to be Lionel Richie, shyly responded, "No, not really." But Thomas explained he was putting together a band for the freshman talent show and needed musicians. Lionel offered to gather some friends for an audition at his grandmother's house just across the street. When Thomas arrived, Lionel surprised him by coming down the stairs playing a saxophone. Laughing, Thomas said, "I thought you said you weren't a musician," to which Lionel replied modestly, "I play a little bit." In that moment, Thomas knew he had found a perfect fit. The group's original lead singer had been drafted to the Vietnam War, and Lionel's voice quickly filled that void. Though Lionel was hesitant, Thomas reassured him and convinced him to perform. They played the talent show and won. Despite not having their own instruments, they had borrowed gear from the Jays, another campus group. When some Jays members graduated, the Mystics merged with the remaining Jays to form a new lineup. It was a perfect partnership. The Jays brought new talent, including Andre Callahan, Michael Gilbert, and Milan Williams, while the Mystics brought passion and drive. Now, they needed a name. William King flipped through a dictionary, pointed randomly, and landed on Commodore. He later joked that with a little less luck, they could have ended up called the Commodes. Determined to break into the music world, the band began making all-night drives to New York City in a crowded van, hoping for just one shot to perform. But first, they had convinced Lionel's grandmother to let him join. He had a secure job offer at a bomb factory in Joliet, Illinois, which eased her mind, and she feared the risks of a life on the road. The band promised to stay away from drugs and alcohol, determined to prove themselves. After playing a few small gigs, they scraped together enough money to head to New York. But the road wasn't kind. On the New Jersey Turnpike, they ran out of cash and didn't even have $4.50 for the toll. The toll collector looked at their beat-up van and said, "If you had money, you'd be driving a U-Haul." When they arrived in New York, things only got worse. After returning from a visit to the YMCA, they discovered their precious music equipment had been stolen. With nothing left, they ended up at Small's Paradise, a legendary Harlem venue. There, a man named Benny Ashburn offered to help recover their gear for a price, but they didn't even have the $50 he asked. Then fate intervened. Benny took a chance, loaned them the money, and arranged an audition. When the Commodores hit the stage, they danced and played with unmatched energy, leaving the crowd in awe. It was that performance at Small's Paradise that changed everything. Benny saw their potential and became their manager. He reached out to his friend Susan Pass, a key talent scout trusted by Motown founder Berry Gordy. Susan had already helped launch the Jackson 5, and she was searching for the perfect opening act for their tour. After watching the Commodores, she knew they were it. The Commodores toured with the Jackson 5 for 2 years, performing night after night before packed arenas. Their dynamic stage presence and high-energy performances won over thousands of fans and proved they belonged among Motown's elite. Eventually, even Berry Gordy was convinced. He signed them to Motown, and their career took off. Their first big hit, the instrumental Machine Gun, became a sports anthem and featured in movies like Boogie Nights and Looking for Mr. Goodbar, climbing to number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100. I Feel Sanctified followed, blending funk and groove in a way that influenced future bands like Wild Cherry, who later created Play That Funky Music. The Commodores also shine on the big screen. In the 1978 movie Thank God It's Friday, they performed Too Hot to trot during a dance contest scene alongside their iconic hits Brick House and Easy. But then came the twist. Why did Lionel Richie leave the Commodores? His departure wasn't as simple as many believed. In later interviews, Lionel said he never actually planned to leave. "I didn't have that plan," he recalled. "People thought I was saying, okay, I'm Lionel Richie now, I'm ready to go solo." But that wasn't how it felt. At the height of their fame, the group decided to take a short break from touring and recording. During that pause, Motown encouraged Lionel to explore a solo project. He agreed, and the results were explosive. With massive hits like Endless Love and All Night Long, Lionel became a global superstar. Returning to the Commodores became more difficult with each success. But not all his former bandmates saw it as an innocent evolution. William King, one of the founding members, expressed frustration in a 1985 interview. For King, the issue wasn't just that Richie left. It was how he left. Richie had kept promising he'd come back after each solo project, but he never did. The Commodores' downfall didn't happen overnight. It unfolded slowly, painfully, with each delay and absence stretching the band thinner. Lionel Richie first stepped away to work with Kenny Rogers, then collaborated with Diana Ross, and finally focused on finishing his solo album. Each time, the Commodores waited, uncertain and hopeful, but the waiting took its toll. Promoters grew hesitant to book the band without Richie, and the group found themselves caught in limbo. William King summed it up with a powerful analogy. Would they have booked the Beatles without Paul McCartney? To the Commodores, Lionel wasn't just a frontman. He was their McCartney, the soul of their sound and the magic in their music. Yet instead of making a clean break or clearly telling the band he wasn't returning, Lionel unintentionally left them hanging. He never said he was gone for good, and so they waited, believing he might come back. But eventually, they had no choice but to move forward without him, a move that left deep emotional scars. Richie, in later interviews, said he never meant to abandon them. He truly believed he would return, but once immersed in his solo work, he experienced a creative freedom he'd never known before. The freedom to fully express himself without the constraints of a group. That kind of independence became harder to give up, and the longer he stayed away, the more impossible returning felt. For William King, however, that prolonged silence was hard to forgive. The split sparked tension among the members that would linger for decades. When asked years later if he'd want a reunion, King didn't hesitate. "Oh, gosh, yes. I've been trying to make it happen for 30 years. He admitted the group initially thought they could survive without Richie. After all, the Commodores had always been a collective effort. But to the public, Richie was seen as the driving force. Fans assumed he wrote the songs, crafted the arrangements, and produced the hits. While Lionel had penned many classics, the rest of the band had played critical roles too. Still, when Richie left, the Commodores discovered the harsh truth. Much of their audience only cared if he was involved. The emotional and financial blow was immense. Tension simmered for over 40 years. Founding member Thomas McClary had his own views on the feud and the jealousy that festered within the group. He never shied away from acknowledging Lionel's brilliance. "Lionel is very talented," McClary said. "He has a great voice and is a wonderful writer." But he didn't hold back either, pointing a finger at William King as the main source of internal friction. "William is probably the least talented of us all, and he's been the main stumbling block." He also believed Walter Orange worsened matters by always siding with King. Yet despite everything, McClary still held on to hope for a reunion. "Yes, I would love it," he said, revealing how he had spent nearly 3 decades trying to make it happen. One of his proudest moments came in 2008, when Lionel invited him and bassist Ronald Lopred to join him on stage in New Zealand. The crowd was electric. "We did a show in New Orleans. 65,000 people showed up," he recalled. There was clearly a hunger for a reunion. In 2009, Lionel even tried to gather everyone for the Essence Music Festival in New Orleans, but the old wounds ran too deep. Some members hadn't spoken to Lionel in 40 years, and bitterness remained. "Come on, you've forgotten what you're even mad about," McClary said, still clinging to the dream that they might reunite one day. But things only continued to unravel. After Lionel, McClary too eventually left. Skylar Jett was brought in as co-lead singer, but it wasn't the same. McClary wanted to start a solo career and channel his energy into gospel music through his own company. He recalled how the band's spark had faded. The focus was lost, the passion diluted. One of the most painful blows came with the death of their manager, Benny Ashburn, a guiding force and father figure to the group. "It felt bittersweet," McClary said. "We were still winning, but not everyone wanted the team to win anymore." Even after leaving, he continued to work with Lionel, co-writing songs for legends like Kenny Rogers and Diana Ross, including music for the film Endless Love. It was a sign that meaningful collaboration still existed, if only others could see it. After McClary's departure, guitarist and vocalist Sheldon Reynolds joined the Commodores and brought fresh energy, but his time was short-lived. Reynolds soon left to join Earth, Wind and Fire, and the band was once again left scrambling. In a surprising move, trumpeter William W. King picked up a guitar to fill the gap during live performances. Then came a near tragedy. Keyboardist Milan Williams, a founding member and key architect of the Commodore's signature sound, survived a harrowing plane crash while piloting a single-engine aircraft in Phoenix. Forced to make an emergency landing on a busy freeway, Milan and the band's press agent miraculously walked away unscathed, though the plane burst into flames. Soon after, Milan left the band, not because of the crash, but for reasons of principle. He refused to perform in apartheid-era South Africa, unwilling to support a system built on racial injustice. His decision created internal strain and marked the official end of the original Commodores lineup. The band's style shifted, moving away from the gritty funk that had once defined them, as they searched for a new identity without their founding soul. Tragically, Milan's story ended with heartbreak. He was diagnosed with leukemia and, after 2 years of fighting, passed away in 2006. His death was a painful loss for his bandmates and for generations of fans who grew up with his music. Milan wasn't just a keyboardist. He was part of the Commodore's very soul. Around the same time, Ronald Lapred, the band's bassist, quietly exited and relocated to New Zealand, beginning a new chapter of life far away from the shadows of his musical past. The Commodores, once a tightly bonded group, had been slowly fractured by fame, silence, loss, and pride, each piece falling away until only memories remained. As more members stepped away, the Commodores found it increasingly difficult to hold on to the spirit that once defined their unity and sound. Like many legendary bands, they weren't immune to internal financial and legal conflicts. As the original members drifted apart and pursued individual paths, it became harder to reunite without tension. At the heart of the dispute was a critical issue: the rights of the band's name and how profits from their enduring music should be shared. The tension reached a breaking point in 2013 when founding member Thomas McClary began using the Commodore's name to promote his own band, while William King and Walter Orange continued performing as the Commodores with a new lineup. This created widespread confusion among fans, who no longer knew which group was the real Commodores. That confusion escalated into a lengthy court battle. In 2018, a Florida court finally ruled in favor of King, Orange, and their company, who would continue performing under the Commodore's name. The ruling was based on 2 key points. First, the court recognized their common law trademark rights due to their ongoing use of the name in the music world. And second, it referred to previous agreements stating that while all members shared rights to the name, none could use it alone after leaving the group. The ruling granted the remaining members exclusive rights to perform as the Commodores, while McClary could only identify himself as an original member, not use the name in promotions like the Commodores featuring Thomas McClary. These restrictions were designed to prevent misleading fans. Meanwhile, the band's sound continued to evolve. As the decades passed, the gritty, funk-driven identity that made the Commodores famous in the 1970s shifted toward a sleeker, more commercial pop style. In 1984, they brought in J.D. Nicholas as co-lead singer alongside drummer Walter Orange. The lineup change ushered in a new era, though chart-topping hits proved elusive at first. But in 1985, their perseverance paid off with Night Shift, their final album under Motown. The title track, a heartfelt tribute to Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson, struck a deep chord, climbing to number 3 on the U.S. charts and earning the Commodores a Grammy for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or a Group of Vocals. Yet the band's new direction came with mixed reactions. While Night Shift brought renewed success, many longtime fans missed the band's original funk roots, unsure of the polished pop-oriented style. But this transformation wasn't entirely a creative choice. It was also a reflection of a rapidly changing industry. The 1980s and 90s brought new technologies, shifting tastes, and the pressure from labels to stay relevant and commercially viable. For the Commodores, it was a delicate balancing act, keeping the loyalty of longtime fans while attracting a younger audience unfamiliar with their legacy. Some original fans felt alienated. Others were curious about this reinvented version of the band. In more recent years, the Commodores have found touching ways to honor their roots and legacy. In 2010, they revisited Night Shift and re-recorded it as a tribute to Michael Jackson following his death in 2009. The idea emerged from a powerful, emotional moment on tour, June 25, 2009, at Wembley Arena in London, when they first heard the news of Jackson's passing. At first, it felt like just another rumor, but when it was confirmed backstage, the band was shaken. The very next night, during a show in Birmingham, J.D. Nicholas spontaneously added Michael Jackson's name to the lyrics of Night Shift, creating an emotional tribute that would become a permanent part of the song. From that point on, the band began honoring other R&B legends who had passed by weaving their names into the track. That moment inspired a new version of the song, officially recorded 1 year after Jackson's death. Throughout their journey, the Commodores remained inspired by greats like Santana, Jimi Hendrix, Albert King, James Taylor, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Though stylistically different, those artists shared the same soulful spirit the Commodores sought to channel. Their dedication paid off, selling over 70 million albums worldwide and crafting smooth, unforgettable melodies that span generations. Inducted into both the Alabama Music Hall of Fame and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame, and with 9 Grammy nominations and a win to their name, the Commodores have solidified their place as icons in music history. Even after all these years, the Commodores have remained active on the global stage. As of 2020, the band continued to feature 3 key members, Walter Clyde Orange, J.D. Nicholas, and William W. King, backed by their 5-piece ensemble, The Mean Machine. Together, they bring their timeless sound to arenas, theaters, and festivals, keeping their music alive for both longtime fans and new generations. Through all the ups and downs, the Commodores' dedication has endured. They continue not only to perform, but also to honor the musical legends who inspired them along the way. However, over the decades, the Commodores have not only gifted the world with timeless music, but also suffered heartbreaking losses within their ranks. 2 members in particular left a lasting impact before their passing, Malon Williams and Sheldon Reynolds. Malon Williams, born on March 28, 1948, in Okolona, Mississippi, was a founding member and the keyboardist who helped define the Commodore's signature sound. Known for blending funk, R&B, and soul with intricate arrangements, Malon was instrumental in creating classics like Brick House. His musical genius shaped the identity of the band during their most successful years. After leaving the group in 1989, Malon continued his work in music, but tragically lost his battle with leukemia in 2006 at the age of 58. Sheldon Reynolds joined the Commodores during a transitional period in 1984, bringing fresh energy as a guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter. Born on November 27, 1953, in Chicago, Reynolds was already an accomplished musician, having played with Earth, Wind, and Fire. His soulful style and versatile talent elevated songs like Night Shift, the Grammy-winning tribute to Marvin Gaye and Jackie Wilson. After departing the group in 1993, Sheldon continued to inspire through solo work and philanthropy until his passing on December 3, 2020. As of June 2025, Several key members of the Commodores, the band that defined an era of funk, soul, and unforgettable melodies, are still alive, each continuing to leave their mark on music and culture. Lionel Richie, now 75 years old and born on June 20th, 1949, was the band's lead vocalist and one of its founding members. With his smooth voice and brilliant songwriting, Lionel helped propel the Commodores to international fame before leaving in 1982 to pursue a solo career. Today, he remains a global music icon, beloved for hits like Hello and All Night Long. Walter Clyde Orange, age 77 and born on December 9, 1947, served as the Commodore's drummer and vocalist. His powerful voice became a defining feature of the group's sound after Richie's departure, and Clyde remains actively involved in keeping the band's legacy alive, still performing to this day. Thomas McClary, born October 6, 1949, is also 75 and was the band's rhythm guitarist and co-writer of several major hits. After leaving the group in 1984, McClary pursued a solo career in gospel projects and remained celebrated for shaping the Commodore sound. William Willie King, born January 30, 1950, also 75, brought vibrancy to the band with his trumpet and flugelhorn, along with his dynamic stage presence, continuing to represent the group's enduring spirit. James Dean J.D. Nicholas, age 73 and born on April 11, 1952, joined the Commodores in the late 70s, contributing vocals and guitar that added fresh energy to their evolving sound. Skylar Jett, now 69 and born on August 1, 1955, lent his soulful voice to the group in the mid-1980s, playing a key role during their stylistic transition. Ronald Lopred, age 74 and born on September 5, 1950, was a bassist whose groovy lines helped define the Commodore's iconic funk rhythm. Though he left the band and settled in New Zealand, his contributions remain unforgettable. And there you have it, the living legends and dearly missed members of a band that helped define a generation. Who is your favorite artist from the Commodores? Comment down below to let us know. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.